we should be live. Come here to the Facebook, and it looks like we are live on Facebook. It looks like it'll... Let's get it manually started. And we're going live on Facebook. Let's double check our YouTube dashboard is going well. We're there. And we're live on Facebook. So we've been going live for just a minute or two here. Very exciting. I've had a great time being here at the MUM.
Lots of passion, lots of ideas.
Oh yeah.
It's all very exciting.
Oh yeah, a lot of very interesting people. So we're excited to have everybody showing up today. So I'm going to go ahead and throw up this here. Check in when you arrive, everybody online, if you're on Facebook and YouTube. Hopefully everybody from Wisp Talk got the invite and are able to join today. But and I know it's a little bit short notice, everybody, letting you know about the live stream this afternoon. But it was kind of this last minute deal where everybody's like, "Hey, you have got to do
popular demand."
Yeah, tell us what's going on with that midspan. And so we decided to go ahead and live stream. Since we are here today, we're going to go ahead and live stream right out of the Mikrotik MUM. So we got about another minute. We're going to let everybody start getting in. And as you arrive, just go ahead and check in and say hi, and we'll get going here in just a minute. A lot of people still moving around. One of the cool things about the MUM is it's not the biggest trade show out there, but it is definitely an engaged trade show.
It is. So people who attend are definitely interested, they're engaged, they know what they're talking about.
Yes, a lot of intelligence. There is no hiding or pretending like you
Oh, yeah.
They're just like
No.
fluffing it.
They will, and they'll
You've
call
gotta
you
be
out
serious.
too.
Yes.
They will call you out.
All right, well, we are at the top of the hour, everybody. It is 3 p.m. Central, and that's when we agreed we'd get started live streaming. So while my phone is ringing in my pocket, I will get us started. Everybody calls just as I'm about ready to start the live stream.
As long as it's on silent, we're okay.
All right, so hello, everybody. Welcome to the Converge PoE, the live stream of PoE Texas. We're here live at the Mikrotik Users meeting in Austin, Texas. So they came to Austin, and we're really excited to have them here. We've had a great time for the past 2 days, meeting different people from all over Texas, all over the country, and frankly, all over the world.
Yep.
It has been a fantastic time, and I have learned a lot just being here, talking with different people, and it's been a great experience. As always, I'm accompanied by my lovely guest host, Miss Maria Medell.
Thanks for joining today, everyone.
And if you're interested in getting the most out of your network, whether you're doing power over Ethernet, whether you're doing lighting, whether you're doing infrastructure, whether you're doing a network architecture, Converge PoE is the right place to get all the updated information and find out from experts what's going on in the field of ICT and technology, especially around power over Ethernet. Today, based on the feedback that we've gotten, overwhelming feedback on our live stream on Tuesday, we are going to reveal the new PoE Texas Managed Midspan. It's behind me right now. It'll come up later. I don't want to spoil all the fun, but we'll reveal that later, and we're going to bring on some guest stars. We're going to go just walk out here and talk to everybody and find who will come on the show and give you the skinny on what happened here at the Mikrotik MUM, what's important for you, and what you need to know. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Get that over in the right space. So, thank you all for joining. Without further ado, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to pretend. We're just going to just go right in on this. We're going to talk about the midspan.
Here it is, everyone.
Yep. So, I'm going to just swing us over to a close-up view. So, I've got here a close-up view that I'm going to switch over to show the new midspan. Now, hopefully I can do a little bit of adjusting here. You can see it. We have 2 versions of the midspan available right now that just came out. We've got our 8-port version, and we've got a 24-port version. So you can see we got the 8-port and the 24-port mounted on our rack, and I apologize about the bad angles here. It's a little bit harder to...
Tight space today.
It's a tight space. You're trying to keep this all within a 6-foot booth here at the Mikrotik MUM. But what you can see here is we've got our 8-port, and this is a 24-port version, very similar. What's exciting about this midspan, and I think unique as far as I've seen, now if you're out there and you're watching, I want you to text Facebook or YouTube. Let me know if you know of anybody else who has a controllable display on their midspan. That is an exciting new feature for us, where you can do a 2 push-button control and actually manage your midspan live here. Now, why would that be important? Why would I even care about managing a midspan on the midspan? I mean, it just should be a dumb device. If you're doing any kind of infrastructure, especially lighting, or for a lot of our WISP guys out there, if you're climbing a tall tower, you've gotten all the way to the top, do you want to have to pull out your laptop just to manage your PoE, or would you feel more comfortable just managing it right here at a push of a finger? So
push of a finger for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I think, because we made it like that. That was a big win for us. We were very excited to be able to make that happen.
Yes.
And with that, you can also get different form factors in terms of we're going to be doing a form factor for 8 ports, 16 ports, and we've already designed it up to the 24 port. I've got a 24 port mounted up here right now with a 2,000 watt power supply.
That's so much power.
That is a ton of power, and that's going to be another feature of this midspan that we're not going to lose, that we're going to make sure we keep, is we're going to always offer it in a DC powered configuration. If I spun this around on the back, you'd see screw terminals for landing the DC power on this midspan. And why is that important? Because you need to be able to manage how much power you want. Sometimes you want 2,000 watts on 24 ports, but sometimes you don't need that. Sometimes you just need some different functionality. So to keep it cost effective, to keep it flexible, and to match what you need, we've made it so that it is a DC power supply, and you can make sure with the right power supply you can get it powered all the way up to 2,000 watts. 80 watts per port, 24 ports. That's just fantastic. This one here, the 8-port version that you're seeing on the screen, this would need 640 watts of power total. And so that's very exciting. So without further ado, I'm actually going to demo right now the onboard management with our PoE tester. This is our Gen 2 tester. Right now, the Gen 2 tester, for those of you who don't know, is designed with a switch that mimics a PoE device. And right now I've got it set to off. So with this off, nothing is going to happen, but the midspan is configured in active mode. So I'm going to go ahead and power this on. And what's really exciting about it is it's going to power on this, and I can measure the power consumption here. But on screen right now, it is going to display the full power consumption for the entire midspan. So right now, I know with an iPad that we're charging and this little guy here, we know we're drawing a little over 11 watts. Now, for those of you at home, you're saying, Tyler, I can't see jack squat. I apologize about the cameras. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to jump over. You don't need to see my lovely face or Maria's lovely face, much more lovely than mine, let's be honest. I'm going to jump over where we can do a screen view of the midspan heads-up display, and you'll be able to see on screen what this looks like. So I apologize. I'm going to navigate here, do a little bit of navigation, make sure I get that heads-up display. All right, so hopefully you're still seeing, it looks like you're still seeing the midspan up here on the screen with my little hand moving along, but you're also getting an image of the PoE Texas heads-up display. Very, very convenient heads-up display. This is the online portal that we have, and I'll get to the online portal. I'll talk about its features in just a second. But what I'm going to do is demonstrate. You should be able to see me going here to menu. I'm going to go on to port 1, and in this case, I'm going to select it to turn off. So if you'll watch, port 1 is about to turn itself off, and the PoE tester has turned itself off. You're not getting any more power on it.
Right.
That is really important because a lot of people who have equipment need to be able to power down a radio, power down an access point, power down a camera. Remote management is so important these days. You have to have it.
It is really wanted. Everyone wants that remote management feature.
Everybody we talked to here at the MUM has said, great, we're glad you finally have that remote management.
We're 2019, we gotta have the remote management.
I know! can flush your toilet with a phone. Why can't I manage this guy? So I'm going to go back to the menu here, and I'm going to toggle it back on. Now here's the thing that's really exciting for all of our WISP audience out there, and some of the special suppliers. A lot of the things that people ask about is passive PoE. Now, I know a lot of users out there, you don't use passive PoE. It may not be what you're familiar with or comfortable with, but there are very special applications where passive works better, and the industry is standardized on passive.
Yes.
And so one of the features we've done, and I'll do it here in front of everybody, is we've set it up where you can actually manage your device and switch it to passive. So I'm going to turn off the negotiation on our tester. So the tester is off. And now I'm going to go ahead and toggle it to passive. And when I toggle it to passive, you'll see on the heads-up display that light goes red. It tells you you've got a passive PoE source, and the PoE tester has turned itself on and is running just fine in a passive mode. Now, what you don't want to do with passive is plug your computer in. That would make for a little bit of a bad day. Yeah, your little NICs might explode. But when you're doing a Wi-Fi access point, you're doing some type of backhaul in a tower. It makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
So with that, I'm going to come back in here on the manual, and I'm demonstrating it here in the manual mode. But what we're going to do here is I'm also going to turn this back on so you can see it power back up. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn over to the screen. So if you're watching on the screen, you can see here, you get the same functionality on the online screen. I can turn off and I can turn on the PoE tester. And it'll come live again here in just a second. Now, what's exciting about what we're doing with our PoE device, or midspan here, is you get more than just a quick turn off and turn on. You do get the power consumption. You can see the milliamps reading here on screen. I'm drawing a little less than a watt of power, and I'm getting about 10 watts here on port 8.
And as you change it on the web page, it also shows on the screen, correct?
That is an excellent point. If you're watching, when I make an edit, a modification on the online portion, it'll reflect it on the screen. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off port 1. And here we go, turning off port 1. And as I do that, you can see it appear that port 1 has been turned off on the heads-up display, or the onboard display, which is really important. That means you can manage things. You can actually check your communication and make sure you're good.
Yes.
Not that you'll need it. You'll know pretty quickly if your PoE is not turning off or on.
That is true.
So, so let's talk about this, the heads-up display and the portal. I'm just going to walk you over here to the device. We've set this up definitely for a secure environment. You need to have admin credentials to be able to get in and modify the settings of the midspan. And it requires your old password and a new password that comes with a default password. You can change all of that. You can actually change your device IP address if you need to modify it for your network. All standard features.
Yeah.
And you can go on board and you can set it back to factory defaults. But keeping in mind, you do a reset to factory defaults, you're going to be resetting the IP address as well.
Okay.
And then we do have it set up where you can have user credentials. So you can have a user.
So almost a backup if you're not available to run the setup or.
Yes.
Okay.
Or if you want to have somebody who can do the management portions, toggle the buttons without actually having to without giving them full access to be able to modify the entire midspan. And as the feature set grows, this will become more and more important.
Right.
So what can you do with this device? Well, I'll start with renaming the ports because I'm going to save my favorite part for last. With the renaming ports, you can actually identify each port with a name or an IP address so you know what destination you're powering in a very quick way, reference it. And that way you're not struggling, do I turn off power port 1, do I turn off port 2? You can configure it during setup, and once it's configured, you'll know what you're talking to with this PoE port.
I was wondering about that when it automatically said tester. I'm still learning about this too, guys.
Yes, this is so new. It showed up in our office on Monday in a beautiful little package. Thank you, Jackie. We really appreciate it. And then I'm going to switch over to my favorite part. This is the PoE mode. Now, why is this important? We talked about being able to go active or passive. This midspan is specifically designed for infrastructure, or a lot with infrastructure in mind. And in this case, if you are a passive PoE user, you can quickly modify the port to be passive or active. All it takes is a simple click of a button, and that port has become passive. You can see it registered on the screen. And for those of you who are heavy users, you can manage it with 4-pair PoE. So you can turn on 4-pair PoE and get 70 to 80 watts, 70 in active mode, 80 watts in passive mode of PoE, which is fantastic. And a lot of our lighting guys are using that much power.
They are, yep, they require it.
And the Cambion users. So last night at our party, we had a great party here at the MUM, hosted at the Hideaway Bar. Brian, the head chef, cooked up the best pork sliders I've had in a long time. So when you come to Austin, go to the Hideaway Bar, get the pork sliders, bar, no questions asked. They were telling me the Medusa, the PM-P450M, it draws so much that it will knock out most switches and midspans. Now, I can't guarantee this will do it yet, but that's on my hit list. It's those types of large infrastructure devices that require 4-pair PoE. It's the PoE lighting solutions.
Right.
So these are some of my favorite features, and they're all controlled and managed on screen. Now, here comes the two big questions everybody wants to know. So before I do that, I'm going to merge us back in so we're at least in the picture here. And so the big question everybody wants to know, how much is this midspan going to cost me?
Drum roll.
How much is it going to set me back, and when can I get my hands on it? We're going to launch it in June. We've been doing our testing. We want to finish a little bit of testing and make sure we're 100% confident, because there's no sense in sending you a product you're not going to be happy with.
Exactly.
So we're going to be doing some testing on our own here in Austin. Like I said, we just got this right now, and we are going to price it competitively because we know you guys need good products at competitive prices, and that's the kind of business we are at PoE Texas. So our 8-port midspan without a power supply is going to retail for $459.99, and that is a steal when you compare it with the other UPoE and 802.3 BT devices out there today. And that will allow you to create the power, couple it with the power supply that you want and you need.
Right.
The 24-port is going to retail for $599.99. $59. Oh, watch out, the No, $599.99 for the 24-port without the power supply. Now, if you call me up and said, Tyler, I don't need something without a power supply, we do kit it with power supplies. This white form factor that you see up here is already kitted with a 2,000 watt configuration, and we've been doing our testing with that 2,000 watts. That's a lot of power if you need it, but if you need it, that's what you need.
Yep, and this one has the vents on it, correct?
That one has the vents to make sure you can get that ventilation. So, it looks like, Maria, we got some people asking questions. What do we need to know about our products?
I was curious to see what the audience thought, which color they liked best, since it looks like we have the 8-port and the 24-port in different cases. Y'all like the white form factor or the black form factor? Let us know. Since we do have different port options, I'd like to get y'all's opinion on that.
And if you're not chatting right now today, because I know it's Friday afternoon, everybody's trying to get off from work, we know it wasn't the ideal time. Chat even after the show, because I'll tell you what, both Marie and I, we check these chats, and we will still give you an answer an hour later. But we're interested. White, black. Do you guys like the green? There's a raging debate inside about, I don't know how many of you know whether this is blue or purple.
Well, I hear purple more often than not, but I think blue.
I think blue too. So yes, I'll be interested to get your feedback, everybody. White, black, or what color you like on that form factor?
Right now we don't have any urgent questions. We don't have really any interaction right now, but they're probably all maybe in traffic. We don't want you all on your phones.
Yeah, stay off your phone. Stay off your phone. So with that, thank you very much for watching, everybody, on this one. And now, for those of you who are interested, hopefully this is giving enough time for our WISP Talk friends to get online, we're going to be talking to some people about what happened here at the MUM and what was exciting. So Maria, if you wouldn't mind, let's start bringing on some of our special guests.
Yeah, let's go grab one.
So I can tell you the excitement has been pretty high here. This has been one of the bigger US-based Mikrotik User meetings in the US. Definitely bigger than Baltimore last year. You know, the user meetings, Mikrotik, are not quite as big in the US as they are, say, in Europe and South America. But it is still very exciting, and I learn a lot. I talk to a lot of people at the MUM, and I have a great time. So we're going to see if we can get Derek's attention. Sorry.
Okay.
So Derek, as you guys know, is from IP Architects, and he joined us at the live stream, and he agreed to kind of do a wrap-up session with us. So Derek, give us give us the 411. What happened here? What did you like? What was especially of interest that you know the WSPOC users and everybody out on online would want to know about?
Well, probably the best thing is that Router OS 7. I've lost my voice talking.
Yeah.
But Router OS, we were allowed to touch Router OS 7 for a little while, and its performance capabilities on existing hardware are staggering in the sense that you will see, if I can do the math in my head, probably a 2,000 to 3,000% increase in performance at the same capability of what you're used to. And that's really, really awesome. I don't know when we're going to see it. It'll be, I suspect, it'll be over the summer. And that was number one. And this is this is my favorite item. It's a coupler, an Ethernet coupler, and it is a G-PAN, which they call a gigabit passive Ethernet network. And it's an Ethernet extender with 300 feet. You put these in, and it'll drop 2 watts or 2 volts.
2 volts, yeah.
And they tested this out to a mile. And so you have power, PoE at a distance. So if you start with 80 watts on your source, you may end up at 1,000 feet. You might end up with 65 watts, which is useful enough to power an AP or in a stadium application or a hotel, or you just need a little bit more. And I don't know how much they sell for. These are already available. I just don't know how much they sell for.
Well, they said they're not available.
Oh, really?
They're not out yet.
They told me in Europe they were.
Maybe they are in Europe. They're not here in the US, which is too bad. But extenders are really important. We know that at PoE Texas because we do retail a line of extenders, and I'll tell you what, we get a lot of thank yous, and a lot of people were very interested. Now, focusing on the passive market, that is a passive PoE device, which is really important because this serves the Mikrotik market where passive power is so ubiquity. Yeah, and it's passive. What's the range on that? That goes from...
It's rated at 2,700 meters.
But what's the voltage range? From like 12 volts all the way up to 57 volts?
It's lost. It loses 2.7 volts per insertion point.
Yes.
But I don't know. I
thought I saw on here what it was rated for. Here we are, right there. Little in small fine print.
You're younger than I am.
24 volts to 57 volts.
Okay, put that in context for me.
Okay, so your average Ubiquiti router, Mikrotik router. Oh, jeez. Hopefully, protect me, Maria. Block him.
The business end of my foot.
Okay, a Mikrotik router will typically run at anywhere from 12 to about 30 volts.
Okay.
At least they used to. I think they broadened that range. But that's a pretty good range. Now traditional, like IEEE PoE, starts at 44 volts and goes up to 57 volts.
Okay.
So that gives you an idea. What it allows you to do is, as you're running long distance, you keep dropping, you can still be within that 24 volt range and still operate your Mikrotik.
So if I start at 48 volts, I can drop down to 24 volts and still be useful at distance.
Exactly. That's what it is. I'll give you all a good look here. I'm gonna swap this over so you can get a good look at this guy. Yeah, Derek likes my little
I love this.
knee cam here. All right. So we talked about Router OS 7.
Router OS 7.
We've talked about the G-Pen. What else is
there's also a tower-mounted switch in an outdoor enclosure. 16 ports, 2 SFP ports. That's also here. That's exciting to the people that are here.
Yeah.
And then they also introduced DC power supplies.
DC power supply.
Because most POPs, like so all the telco infrastructure, the hundreds of thousands of POPs, be for cellcos or for telcos, they're primarily DC.
Okay.
So Mikrotik doesn't typically go in there unless you have an inverter. And now they can go straight to a fuse panel that satisfies a lot of needs.
Okay, very cool. Well, Maria, we got a question for our expert.
Someone did want to know where were the guys in the prison orange. So here's one of them. There's Derek. And then we did get a comment about the casing. Reagan says that she likes the black case.
Okay, we got a
I
vote.
do that up. She thinks that looks great in the wrap.
All right, I like black too, but it looks a little dark. All right, so change topics here for you, Derek. We've been talking a lot about Mikrotik, which is great. The fun and the value of the Mikrotik users meeting, though, is you get to meet a lot more people than just Mikrotik. You get to meet people using Mikrotik and doing other very interesting things.
A lot of embedded systems. A lot of
exactly. So, wildcard time. Who is your favorite non-Mikrotik specific? I mean, everybody uses Mikrotik around here, but who's your favorite booth or guy here who didn't?
Who I encountered?
Yeah, you ran into just at the show.
A guy working on the railroad, and he's actually trying to light up long distance Ethernet over rail.
Over rail.
Yes, that was cool.
That is very cool. I'm curious how that's going to work out.
So are we.
So many times, so many places where that could ground out and you lose signal.
That's a cool little project.
That is very cool.
Now that was probably the most innovative of the ones that are here.
Mm-hmm. Did you get to see the ATX LED guys?
I haven't been over there.
Yeah, they're bringing on their own PoE lighting solution, which was very cool.
Oh, it's just a giant love fest.
I know. Of course, I'm going to pick out that. Right? I mean, I got to see that. Okay.
So you finally told the world how much these are.
I did.
That's fantastic.
I revealed it to everybody. Now, one of the things another thing that we happen to be showing that is not traditional for us, and that I love, is those cables from Murtec. Remember the ones
the lights on them.
That have the lights on them. I'm going to go get one. I should have had one here ready to go. You keep them entertained while I go get them.
Really?
Yeah, singing, dancing.
I did that last night till like 2. These are kind of slick.
These are slick, and they're fun little thing. It's always, like I said, it's always fun to see new tech, and I'm happy to show off new tech whenever I get to. So I'm gonna move stuff around so I can make sure I've got things on the screen here. So this is gonna be for Cat 6 cable. Let's see if I can move far enough back. These are designed to be beacons to ring out a Cat 6 cable. Let me see, am I on screen yet? And what happens is if I push the button, it will flash an LED on either end. And that's a pretty cool feature here to be able to accomplish that for tracing cable really quickly.
And it's within 10%, 15% of the cost of a professional cable.
Yes, well, and they come pre-cut lengths and everything. And it gives you an excuse to walk up to your best friends and say, "Ooh, I'm sorry, am I flashing you?"
So this is new standard. This is power on Ethernet.
But he's actually using extra pairs of power on. Oh, guys, you can't get anyone by him. And then we also have one we're also showing one for fiber. So you can. It's not just for Cat 6. It's for fiber. And that is
it's actually more useful because of the density of fiber in a CO.
Yes, and the fact that you don't, it's how is it easy to ring out fiber? I don't know.
You'll see a fiber bundle that might be that big, and it doesn't generate heat, so you can bundle it tight. And so we never see density in a CO of copper, but I'll see 10 racks. This entire top half will be these guys. 48 port or 52 port all the way down. Yeah. For customers. Wow. Does this end a supplyable end, or does he have to make a cable? Well, we can ask Chris. Chris, here's the man. Total
He's going live on television, Chris. Come on, keep coming in. You got a little bit further. Lean in and then hug
and
you.
a supplyable end, so they could actually run a cross connect.
No, it's pre-made.
You're missing out.
Yeah, I know, right?
That would fly.
Yep.
So
we'll work on it.
Work on that.
He's going to work on it. All right.
We had Tom Willis say he loves the flashing LED for cable tracing. He thinks it was a great idea.
All right, thanks, Tom. It's fun. I think it's a fun idea. What you find out here. All right, hey, and now since I got you here, I will share this. A lot of the people had asked at the live stream. We got our Lightning device, the thing that powers the iPad.
Yeah.
A lot of people had asked, well, will it manage a Mikrotik router? Can you use the app?
Yeah, the answer is yes. You just have to do it by IP instead of by a layer 2 MAC, which Mikrotik is used to, which we've always been used to. Which is still better than nothing. But you can actually plug your iPad into an Ethernet cable over USB-C, and you can get to a router from using the Winbox for iOS.
Yeah, it was. And let me hold it up for everybody to see here. So we got our little iPad. It is running on a network cable back to the router. So this is a direct connect. And so the good news is you're getting a hardwired connection to that router. And
or do a switch.
But we found a little bit of a lesson learned. It took like 4 experts, Mikrotik experts, standing here with me. You have to have an updated operating system on your router. If that 44.2. Don't do anything earlier, because otherwise you're going to sit there and say, I can't make a secure connection. You're going to feel very silly getting that done. But it's there. Now the bad news is this device is not passive 24-volt PoE yet, so you can't just plug it in on the PoE out port of your router. But hey, I want to hear votes. All of you out there who are Mikrotik users, let me know. Let us know. Do you want a 24-volt version of this same device so that you can manage your routers? Is this a thing? Or you're kind of like, meh. It's not that big a deal for us.
That's not what I see this useful for.
Yeah.
I see this as getting the tablet off the wireless.
It's definitely getting the tablet off.
And that, everyone knows across time, that is the easiest way to manage things.
Yes.
That's
and it's more secure.
Well, it's just more predictable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's what I see that being.
Yeah. All right. What do we have any other questions, Maria? What do we got going on?
No questions right now, but Lynn's ready.
All right. We got Lynn. So we're going to say thank you to Derek. Derek, you have been a great host on Converge PoE. We're so glad you made it. And we both survived the party last night. It was a fantastic party. Derek, for those of you who don't know out there, the other thing I'm going to start carrying as swag are Derek's beer labels. If you don't know about these beer labels, they are epic. Every detail in these beer labels is correct. Give us your favorite beer label.
I don't remember what they are. That was the Belgian white box.
Yeah, the Belgian white box. Was one you put the expiration date.
It was the year that 25.0.0.0 got assigned the date to UK by ICANN.
These are beautiful. These are works of art. This isn't just like some guy making something on his computer. These are like, so for those of you who are looking for some swag, call Derek. He's got the beer labels. They're fantastic. Well, Derek, thank you very much. You have been a great host. Thank you so much. So I'm going to bring in my friend Lynn from Engineer Austin. How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Doing well. So, what's your take on the month?
I really enjoyed how we all got together and kind of knowledge base together. Also share the new products that's coming up, the stuff that you hear, how to use it better, and kind of brainstorming and seeing great products that you bring to the table. I love it.
Fantastic. Did you make any cool sessions while you were here?
I did. I went to a couple of the sessions, but then I was also trying to, keep a presence at the booth.
Yeah, you got a booth out here with us.
Yeah, it's always hard to juggle between seeing the awesome sessions and learning, or staying back and kind of keeping up with people.
Okay, so shout out to all of our audience out there. Which session was your favorite? Share with other people, because whether you attended or you're watching it online, it helps everybody find what the best information is out there. I know Lorenzo came all the way over from Italy to talk about setting up, it's VLANs he did, right?
Yeah.
And that was very popular. As soon as he walked in, this place, the exhibit all cleared out, and so I'm curious to see what people had to say about his session.
Yeah, I thought it was. I didn't see his session, but of the sessions that I did see, they provided a lot of really useful information, and I could see how you could implement some of these different changes into our networks and our clients' networks, and and it's just a great database of information and knowledge. So
it is.
I like obviously I'm prone to like the one that my engineer did. So that one was good.
Which one was it? The
VRRP.
VRRP, and that Mohammed did that one.
Yeah,
right?
he did do that one. It was 9 o'clock this morning. It was a really good session.
Okay.
It was kind of hard to hear with some of the technology we have problems with over here, but I've heard the online version is perfectly clear to hear.
Okay, perfect. Well, so for our audience, we get a lot of people. Sometimes they're Mikrotik users, sometimes they're not. What does VRRP? Why is it important, and why? What would you need to know if you had 2 minutes to describe it?
2-minute session on VRRP. It would be like highly available networks. So you could have dual routers where you have failover ability or upgradability or change out, or if you have any problems with a single router, your internal network doesn't go down. So it keeps it highly available, virtual router holding its presence, while you can still keep the hardware up or change it out or anything you need to do.
Fantastic. So it's a reliability thing. It gives you the dual performance, the performance of two devices working
multiple
together.
devices.
Multiple devices.
You can have 4, however many you need to be able to keep your infrastructure stable and up without having hardware failures.
Well, let me ask you a question. I've heard the term stacking too. Stacking is where you take and not just physically put 2 switches together, but you actually combine them so that you don't get IP storming back and forth. Tell me if I'm getting that right.
Sure, absolutely.
Is that similar but on a router level, or are they for different purposes?
Yeah,
really?
so VRRP is handled, it's called virtual routing, virtual redundant routing protocol.
Okay.
So it means you're putting 2 routers, multiple routers in line, and then you create a virtual router underneath them. And then your network exists on the virtual router interface instead of on the physical routers, which could sometimes need to be updated or go down. So it's like the stacking and the switching, but it's happening on the routing layer instead of the switching layer, the layer 2 layer.
Okay. That's very cool. So, and this may seem elementary, and I apologize for all of our really experienced guys out there, but we cater to a lot of people. There are a lot of different people, education levels. I'm sure a lot of people would like to know from a professional, Engineer Austin. They consult here in Austin on technical issues, in particular around WISPs, network architecture, and they do
network engineering.
And network engineering, which is fantastic. So, as a pro, what's the difference between a switch and a router?
Okay, so that happens to be, in a nutshell, quick, the 5-minute session is, in the switch you're working more on layer 2, which is your physical layer, your ARP cables, your internal network layer.
So I'm going to pause there. A layer, it's just it's a way of explaining how networks work. OIS came up with 7 layers. Yeah, it's a model. 7 layers. Layer 1 is the physical layer.
That's right.
That's the actual
hardware
wire, moving place to place. Layer 2 takes it up a level, and that makes it a little bit smarter. Like layer 1 is the plus or minus 2.5 volts.
The actual transmission on the wires.
Exactly. Layer 2 is where you manage what that communication is doing, but it's not what you and I see. And then it goes up different stages. Layer 7 is like the application you're using, like
the web browser. Or
YouTube is a layer 7 type device, and so that helps get people in orientation. Layers not that complicated, but it's one a lot of people use the term pretty quickly because we're all used to that. But I want to make sure. So routers and layer 2. You were on that.
So most switches are working on layer 2, which is the MAC address and the internal network layer.
And a MAC address, by the way, sorry, and I keep interrupting. I apologize. A MAC address is an individual identifier for a PoE device.
No, any device.
Network device.
Yeah, your cell phones, your access points, your printers, your computers, they all have a unique MAC address.
And that's worldwide. You're not going to find multiple MAC addresses.
That's correct.
And you have to register your MAC address to make sure.
Yeah, the vendors have a prefix of the MAC address, and then there's unique for each piece of equipment.
Exactly. And what a router does, if I understand it right, when your device gets on a router, or on the network, that router picks up that MAC address and says, this MAC address is now talking to my system.
That's right. Yeah, it identifies the MAC address with the specific IP address. Now, an IP address is layer 3, which is the next layer down, which handles the communication between the devices on the network.
Yep.
So, like, it helps managing your infrastructure, your devices, and it lets them connect to the internet now across the layer 3 network.
Perfect. And so, like, a MAC address is like your very individual thing. An IP address, you might find multiple IP addresses in your network. Like in this hotel, there's like a small network, and it says, okay, this MAC address is talking to this IP address, and that's how that manages your communication.
The router, the router uses the MAC addresses to help, route the IP addresses to the correct port on the switches or wherever they're connecting.
Perfect.
So it creates an ARC table, which is of all the MAC addresses of the devices that are connected to it.
Okay, so. And that's why speed on tables. You know, Derek was talking about the router OS 7, and the speed. It's those MAC address lookup tables that it's doing so much faster now.
So
that's very exciting. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Your MAC addresses, you're on layer 3.
That's right. So.
And then what is it, like the difference between a router and a switch?
All right. So the switches is working primarily on layer 2.
Layer 2.
And then layer 3 is where you have the IP addresses.
Okay.
So which is happening on the routers.
Okay.
So in a nutshell, your routers are handling your IP addressing and your routing, where the different IPs are, where you're going. And your switches are just keeping everything on the same network communicating within each other.
Yes, and it's an old technology, but the difference between a switch and a switch actually moves data around to different ports and allows multiple ports to be talking at the same time, and it manages that data. A hub, for those who don't know, is a very simple device that lets the traffic just talk if it happens to be passing.
So a hub is just, in a simple form, a relay device.
Yes.
So anything you speak into the hub, it shouts out to everybody else.
Yes.
But a switch, it's a smart device. So instead of me shouting to the whole world, if I want to print something, I'm not shouting it to every device that I want to print something. I'm just saying, hey, printer, I need a print. So it routes the traffic. It's smarter with the management of the traffic. It sends it across to just the printer, not everything.
Not everything. That's very smart.
So it's more efficient on the traffic and the overhead and the throughput on the device.
Fantastic. Maria, do we have anybody asking questions here?
We have one comment from Tom. I'm trying to see what he likes about the comment or what he likes about the product. He said he really wants his church to use the PoE 872460.
Okay, so
see what aspect he likes about that. We'll see what he says.
All right, Tom, we appreciate that. And Tom, let me see if I can help you out. We're going to ask an expert. You could show this to your church. What happens when you start working with aged equipment that is not really working on some of the newer protocols? What are some of the risks of doing that?
Well, some of the risks of using older equipment that's not current, or it won't handle the same number of current simultaneous connections. So especially at a church where you have like a large amount of people coming in on Sunday or something like that, where you need to have a high volume of people in a very short, high density area, your older access points won't really be able to handle it, or they might freeze up. So that's why you would want to go with the current, more modern one, or one that broadcasts on dual bands, which means the 2.4 gigahertz and the 5.8 gigahertz frequencies, so you can get more concurrent connections to be able to handle your entire group at the same time.
And those dual bands simply require more power. And what that results to on the PoE side is you have to go with something like the switch that Tom is talking about that does PoE plus.
More power, cleaner power,
good power,
all
and a little bit of management. And so what Tom is talking about with this one, Tom can get some management of this device here, where he can manage the switches, he can manage the switch, the Wi-Fi access point. He can do a lot more with it. And we talked about that in another video, so we don't have to cover that here, Tom.
The great thing about the managed switch and the PoE across the switch is if like the access point loses communication, it can shut itself. You can shut itself off and then turn it back on without having to go there.
Yes.
You can manually change that power.
Yes, and the watchdog here, this guy has a watchdog that will do that for you.
That's awesome.
So it'll watch an IP address and ping it, and if that IP address is dead, it'll drop out.
That's great.
But this is a really important question, right? That I have for you. When should I consider upgrading hardware? Because Like we're talking switches, we're talking routers. It's really easy. I imagine I'm a user too, just like everybody else. I imagine it's really easy for people to come in and just be like, yeah, spend a lot of money with me, and you'll get all this new stuff, and you'll be so happy. And it's a tough decision. It's not the kind of decision you make lightly, right? So, as a professional consultant, when should a user, or let's give a normal office, a small church, or moderate-sized church, or an insurance agent, or somebody with just a regular office infrastructure, when should they consider upgrading? Like, what would tell you to trigger?
So generally, it has to do with the usage and how long it's been since they previously upgraded.
Okay, so time. Let's say all things being equal, time. When do you think technology dates out?
It's hard, but on an average, it's like 5 to 7 years is a good replacement time or kind of consideration time. All of our technologies, our phones change about every 2 years. We have a new revision every year. So to keep up with the devices and the protocols, with the newer devices, they get more efficient. They handle the power better. They can handle more concurrent connections better. And then also, as your office or business or whatever you're running is growing, you need to keep up with your growth. So like if you've been using equipment 5 years ago and you only had 3 users, but now you've got 10 or 20 users and your workflow is a lot more, your load is a lot more, you're no longer keeping up with what you used to have to be able to support your current load.
Yes, and an important distinction I think I would make is what a user is. A user isn't just necessarily a physical person. Like you may only, I'm a small office, I've got 3 people in my office. A user actually can be represented by an iPad. Now everybody, 10 years ago,
iPads or phones or
like laptops.
All those are users on the network. In fact, we have thermostat controls, we have cameras, we have, all your PoE equipment are users on the network, even though they're not, physical people or people,
Exactly. And now everybody, it's not unusual. I've got a phone, I've got 2 tablets, I've got a tablet computer,
garage door openers, Alexa,
yeah.
All these things are users.
You've got one of those iOS locks that talks through the Wi-Fi. So every one of those Wi-Fi users uses up that bandwidth, and I think that's important. So I'm just going to switch here screens here so we can get a better view of us because we're having such a great conversation. So, Maria, any questions from our audience that they want to know? Because I keep talking and I'll just keep going on.
Maybe something y'all can help bounce back off of. Tom, I just threw it up there. He said, the beauty of PoE is that one cable, which is very easy to run, power is not always available at the location you want to place your cable.
That is a beauty. That's really important. And maybe, you get my opinion. I don't know, if you look around here, Lynn, all of our stuff, our stage lighting, our camera, our computer that I'm using to control this, it's all running on PoE. I love PoE, but I'd like to get outside opinions. Where does PoE make sense, and where doesn't PoE make sense?
Every network switch that we're putting in a customer's location, we have at least one PoE switch that handles every access point or smart device that needs power over it. By having even one PoE switch in there, we can control things like the door locks that need power, or like the cameras that need power. So, doesn't have to have every switch in your network be PoE, but at least one to handle all your devices. Because the alternative is, as you know, is running devices that you now have to have managed PoE injectors, which are great if you only have 1 or 2 devices to manage a PoE injector, but you'll be so surprised because as soon as we install a piece of equipment that can handle power over it, we open the door to so many other devices, as you just pointed out here, that we can now run across PoE. Your cameras, your lights, your full phones on your desk can be PoE. PoE, you're getting power and data across one, just like your device does on your iPads, which is amazing because now you don't have to worry about a wireless connection. You can do a wired connection plus power to it. You never go down. It's highly available.
Well, and I'm going to make the case for the midspan. Here's the justification why midspan. To your point, we live in the modern age. You could buy a PoE switch for a couple bucks. Why on earth would you stay with a midspan? And it has to do with this question of replacing equipment. I did this at our office. I got real ambitious. I'm like, I'm gonna upgrade my infrastructure. I brought in my IT guy, and he's like, yeah, let's upgrade your infrastructure. You're gonna be so much happier when I put in all this new technology. And the promise was, I'm gonna come in on a Saturday afternoon. In 4 hours, I'll be done, and your system will be done and complete. And sure enough, a month and a half later, I'm still getting my team coming in, Tyler, we can't answer the phone, or Tyler, this isn't working. And it's because there were just little bits and pieces of that network setup that weren't right. And so my suggestion is there's a scope point at which it is worth the extra money and the time to upgrade your switch and upgrade your router and upgrade your infrastructure. But that time isn't always just right there. Like just today, I'll give you an example. Let's say I want to put in one of those new Wi-Fi access points, dual radio, it's PoE Plus.
Right.
If you have one or two PoE Plus devices, you're probably going to spend more money, even as an installer, not just as the customer, but as the installer, you're going to spend more time and more money trying to get all the configurations in a managed system done right. Just to that, the port forwarding, the firewall settings, the email server, all those little details, they just take time. And why invest that time when you can just throw in a midspan to upgrade from PoE to PoE Plus for those first things? And so it's a good middle road to carry you over until it really does become worthwhile.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're great tools when you're working in these networks to make sure that your devices are getting proper power.
Yes.
It's very useful.
Tom, Tom, I want to give a shout out. You are fantastic, my friend. We love having you on the show. You're a great contributor. And I always like to tell people out there as the audience, a lot of you guys are just sitting back, relaxing and watching, which is great. We love everybody who attends. But, these live streams, what's different between a live stream and just a webinar is you get to decide where we go. You get to ask the questions. And you have right now in front of you a highly paid, highly compensated network architect answering questions for free. And I'm just peppering him with stupid questions, about what's PoE, what's PoE Plus. But this is your chance to ask him your tough questions. So go ahead, pull out your tough questions, send them to Maria. Maria's over there. She will make sure I get those questions answered for you.
Tom just threw in something else, and he discovered PoE Texas, Tom Sinclair.
Yeah. So Tom found us on Tom Sinclair's Streaming Idiots. Shout out to Tom Sinclair. For those of you who don't know, I'm going to NAB next week to the Streaming Idiots get together at NAB Tuesday night, and that's going to be a fun party. We're going to give away some things at the party to the people who've come, and I shout out to all the Streaming Idiots out there. For you don't know, Lynn, I'm relatively new to the live streaming. And when I came in, Tom took me under his wing, introduced me to the Streaming Idiots audience, and they were amazing. It's like the most welcoming group. They have been friendly, helpful. They've been willing to help me build an audience, and in addition, help me know how to do all this stuff technically. So it's been, if you ever get into live streaming,
I want to join you on yours. I'll just come over and join you more often.
All right, we want to hear it. Vote. Do you want to see Lynn again? Lynn's based here in Austin. You can, if you give enough votes and say get him back on, we'll bring him back on, and then you can ask all your tough questions. You can write them all down, and you'll get an hour of free consultation.
Absolutely.
That's like what, a $300, $500 value?
Something like that.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to ask Maria. Do you think we can get Edmonds from Mikrotik on? You know Edmonds, real tall guy? Do you want to see if we can get him to come on and talk to our audience? We're sending Maria off to ask. No guarantee, but for those of you who got Edmonds' cell phone number, text him. Say, get on the Converge PoE live stream. So, Lynn, talking to our audience about Power over Ethernet, or about any kind of network infrastructure architecture. This is an open one. I want you to give us your top tip. Give us your hit tip, the one that if you could make somebody's life better just by knowing this little detail, and it can be technical but non-technical, what would you tell them?
Around Power over Ethernet.
Anything. I mean, network architecture. Your best tip here that everybody would value.
Well, so my best tip would be speaking to their network administrators or their IT people, because it would be, our best tip is to know what's happening in your network, right?
Okay.
Know what devices you have connected, how many you have regularly connected, where the users are coming from, and what your traffic is looking like. Because with that information, you can make sure you're focusing on wherever your bottleneck is.
Okay.
Or wherever you're, if you're not having enough users, or let's say you're having not the throughput that you're paying for with your provider. You want to make sure that you're using equipment that can optimize your internet connection, because that's your that should be your limited factor.
That's an interesting tip. So if I'm hearing you right, even if I'm a non-technical person, I'm not the IT person, I should be aware what's on my network.
Absolutely.
And I should invest a little bit of time to become familiar with it.
Yeah.
So,
and also, all right, so on your network, for example, let's say you have Spectrum Internet or one of the internet providers, and they're giving you a 100 by 20 megabit per second service. If you're running speed tests regularly and you're not getting that service, it might be your network, or it might be the provider not getting you the same level of service. So then you could investigate what you are not getting from your provider, because you'll get the most out of it that way.
Okay, that's great feedback. So, learn. And for those of you who don't know, this is not a paid promotion. If you're doing the speed test that Lynn is talking about, you go to speedtest.net and you just check your uplink and your downlink speed, and that's how you do a speed test.
There are a lot of them. Speedtest.net works well.
That's the one I use.
You can also go to fast.com.
Yes.
And it shows a live one from Netflix that works pretty well as well.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Well, Lynn, we appreciate. Sorry.
What's that?
Oh, Edmonds is
no.
hiding. He's MIA. All right.
Tom does want to see you back on the show, so there you go.
Awesome. I got one vote of confidence, I guess.
All right, Tom. We will get Lynn back on, and we'll make sure you can ask tough questions. So, ask the questions about your network architecture, and I think where people could get the most value. Let's talk about where people are getting the most value from Engineer Austin. You get the most value from an outside technical consultant when you're trying to conceptualize how to solve a problem, right? Like if I'm just thinking I want to put in a phone, I wouldn't come to you.
Yeah, you might, because most phones are running over the internet nowadays.
Really? Oh, that's a good point.
So if you're running with a VoIP or a hosted phone, you might be able to save a lot of money and drop your old POTS lines, plain old telephone lines, for other people.
Yeah.
You would drop those lines, go with the hosted phone lines, be able to get cheaper bills and have better service.
That's a good point. And we opted to go VoIP phones.
Yeah.
And it's so easy. I was talking to somebody the other night, a guy named Doug. And I'll do a shout out to Doug. You'll recognize Doug because he's got this great Santa Claus beard. And he was here just a minute ago waving at me. Guy blew my mind knowing what he knows about phones, but he was explaining to me, you're talking a couple 800 kilobytes, which is so small. I don't even use that term, but 800 kilobytes up and down for phone service.
88 kilobits. Not 800. 800 would be 8 megs.
Yes, you're right. 88 kilobytes. Thank you.
Yeah.
See, this is why you bring on a specialist. But 88
so less than
kilobytes,
100 kbps is what most phones are.
Yes, and that just blows my mind. I mean, that's
very small.
That is so small.
Very small.
And what they do now with the right cloud-based VoIP services, your conference calls happen on somebody else's server. So let's say I get 10 people, they're calling in on one VoIP conference call. Your service to your office is just
the
88.
one line.
It's just one line up and down. You don't have like 8 people calling in and using up your bandwidth. That blows my mind. I think that is fantastic news.
That also frees up your services, because instead of having to pay for 8 lines at your office, you can still have 8 on the conference call, but only be paying for 1.
Exactly, and that makes a big difference. Well, Lynn, we really appreciate your time today. It was fantastic having you on the show.
Thanks.
We're glad you came to the MUM with us, and we've really had a great time here with everybody. So we will, Tom, we'll make sure Lynn comes back on. Maybe we can even convince Mohammed to come back on with you.
Absolutely, sure.
So we can ask you the tough questions.
That sounds good. Thanks
you
a lot.
Have a great
Look
weekend.
forward to it.
Thanks, Lynn.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. All right, well, let's get Maria back on. We've been going on for about an hour, which is great, but I like to keep it short and keep it to the point. So, Maria, I want to hit you. You're the guest host,
Non-specialist.
and you know what? But you really are like the voice of real people out there. You know, a lot of us techie people, we know what we love, and we get all nerdy out there, and even I'm blown away by what we've seen at the MUM. What's been your favorite part of the Mikrotik Users meeting?
the interactions. Like, I know that a lot of people came by to see the Managed Switch, and even though we were really excited about its capabilities in itself with the first one we have here, there were already so much feedback from everybody else of how it can be improved for, say, the next generation. And it blew my mind that they already had so many ideas for improvement or what they would like to see in it that it might not do right now. And so just interacting with every single person that stopped by the booth to hear what they wanted versus what someone else might have wanted, the interactions were probably my favorite part.
Very cool.
And they showed so much passion in what they talked about. You could just tell that 24/7 that's what's going with them.
Yes, they're going. Well, everybody, thank you very much for doing this wrap-up here at the Mikrotik Users Meeting, or the MUM as it's called. We've had a great time. Thank you for tuning in, learning about our new Managed Midspan. Again, it's going to be available in June. It's going to retail for $459.99 for the 8-port,
and then $599.
$599.99 for the 24-port. And if you want to see more, let us know in the comments of the feedback. And if you see a feature that we're missing, what's great about having the software side of this is we can make updates. Let us know what you need. And we really appreciate your time here at the MUM. So I'll wrap it up with if you like this show, if you like talking to Maria and I, let us know. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell icon, watch more. But more importantly, this is even more important than liking. If you hated this, if you were like, this is the most boring thing in the world, but the fact that you stuck around for the entire hour talking with us, tell us what you want to know. We really respond to what you're asking for. We want to know what's important to you so that we can make this experience as valuable to you as it is to us. So, like, subscribe, tune in on April 16th when we're at Next Gen. It's a team that is helping. It's a very tight-knit, exclusive group of professionals that have been helping guys go from just voice service to managed IP services. Very exclusive, and they're coming to Austin, and they help do all kinds of things, and I'm so excited about it. And I'm going to give a shout out to our Next Gen guys. We're really excited to see you April 16th, and I will be at NAB in ISC West in Las Vegas next week, so keep an eye out. I'll try and appear on PTZ Optics live stream, and hopefully you'll even catch me on Streaming Idiots, Tom. Maybe?
Maybe.
Shameless plug.
And while he's out, if y'all have any questions about the Managed Midspan or anything else that we talked about today, drop us a line. We have the service email. Give us a call. You'll probably get me on one of the lines so we can talk about PoE, whatever you need.
All right. So I'm going to see if I've got this lined up to wrap it up. But you all have a great weekend, and we will see you on April 16th. All right, that was a great show. I know we got the audio still rolling, but maybe, this will be our podcast portion of the show.
Version.
Yeah. Now we're podcasting.
Off air, behind the scenes.
Ooh. Okay, you're gonna miss Derek's bad puns so maybe we can get him to come over and do. It was good
wait
puns.
for that.
It's good puns. All right, let's go ahead and I'll cut the stream. And now I just totally threw my mouse.